More. We're doing more. Okay. The last video I kind of like struck a bit of gold when it comes to my routine. It feels like one of the efforts that I kind of want to do was interact because I am, but it seems like I'm more used to paper as a form of kind of like cementing something. I've always kind of wanted to write more than it is to type. Although I love typing and I type a lot, but I feel closer to what I write. It feels like I'm actually like putting in effort. It feels like I'm actually like extracting something like, I don't know, letting something out. Okay. But writing down every day instead of having a calendar what I'm going to do tomorrow allows me to think about them an extra step. And the idea behind it is by the time that morning comes, I would have already kind of like created like a gap between the actual decision and the time I actually just do it. And not just the gap, but at night, basically, there's science behind like what do you think about the night before is basically the last thing you think about before you sleep is basically what you kind of like do the next day, what you kind of like think about through the night. Sorry. So that's also I want to kind of like try out, and I'm gonna start with it today, and then see how far I could actually take it, and maybe like have some updates and see if that works. Not if that works, man. See, the thing is, I'm actually trying to kind of to find a certain harmonious way for me to just dive into the one thing that I should right now, or at least I believe right now, which is programming. It seems like the day is still slipping from me, and I'm not really like getting in the zone, getting in the mood of just programming. And I guess that's fine because like it'll click over the next couple of days. I'm sure like this week everything will click differently because like I actually started, right? Today's video is life makes decisions. We get to make the choice. It's written a choice here, but basically that choice. Life makes decisions. We get to make the choice. So reading this makes me consider two things. There's always a third, but two things are always kind of like on different sides. The first thing is that everyone seems to kind of boil down the explanation of presence with just whatever the actual moment requires you to do it. But there's a lot of activity as well. So like there's a lot of like movement from our side in order for different moments to kind of if I'm just sitting at home, like sitting at home would require me to just do nothing. So technically I'm present, but like I don't know, right? I mean, there are a lot of things you can do at the house, but I imagine if you're always at the house, then you kind of like lose the whole what would the moment want from me kind of vibe. So it has to be some movement, there has to be some exploration, there has to be that kind of stuff. And on the other side is we kind of is us and how the world kind of like revolves, our world revolves around the choices we make. So from one side, like everyone that ever talked about like kind of the spiritual aspect of our existence, whether it is religion or whether it is just like random spiritual leaders, it was always about like whatever is required, what just like be present in the moment and all that good stuff. So and for us mere mortals, it's basically the other side is how we basically approach effort and the things that we actually like focus on, and just in general, the stuff that we tend to kind of like give life to, right? Because like if you're just holding the guitar every day, eventually you're gonna get better and better and better and better. So, but if you do it like wholeheartedly, passionately, then you basically stick with it for a while and kind of like explore just a bit more of, I don't know what music truly is through the guitar. And you can do the same with work, with cleaning at the house. You can do the same with organization. You can do the same with relationships. It's basically like the choices we make when we're interacting. And the ultimate choice we can make is to actually accept what's happening and just do what needs to be done. Accept what's happening first and do what needs to be done. Because if you don't really accept what's happening, so is that something about? Because for me, I'm not feeling 200% about the fact that I'm actually the programming that I'm doing. And again, I feel like when I know what I have to do, I get it done very fast. But I don't really have that. Like, I haven't really put effort on the organizational skills. So maybe the whole concept in my head of I have to code at least 8 hours a day is not really what I need to be thinking about. I need to be thinking about the portions of the actual website and to kind of destructure them on paper in order for me to kind of write the design properly, I guess, or at the very least split the tasks properly, so that when the time comes to do them, I just get them done. I do the testing that needs to be done, and I basically move on. And it'll be fun because it kind of like it gives me a chance to get feedback on certain tasks and certain basically days and how they were planned and how I basically considered these tasks and how I considered them in terms of size, in terms of effort, in terms of like focus. And that'll be fun to actually like process. That'll be fun to kind of like think about. So the current moment's kind of telling me to that it's always about, right? Like I'm the one who's thinking out loud. And I wrote these notes 2 months ago. And right now I'm kind of like reflecting on life has made a decision, right? And we get to make the choice. And this is very similar to the quote from The Matrix. Uh, he was talking about him, she knew that he will be there. And she was like, I know why you're there. You just have to figure out why you decided you wanted to be there. Why he made the choice to be there. Actually, so like you know, he already made the choice to be there, but why he made the choice is what he needed to kind of like think about. Sorry, I'm remembering the scene in my head. But so I'm assuming like going back to it, it's just like really accepting the present moment and maybe accepting what's happening, just like listening to what input is required from you. And it's a funny thing to think about as input because you're actually inputting. But for the longest time, all I ever thought of was me outputting, like thinking and pushing from outside of me. The reality is, I'm not outputting, I'm inputting in other stuff. Inputting is a bit easier, right? Outputting kind of feels like you have to put effort within yourself. But when you're inputting, you're like inputting in different places. So if my goal is not really to write 4 hours of code, my goal is to write code as fast as possible and kind of finish the platform. So the entirety of my work at this current moment is really the planning. And how would I plan? Well, the best thing I said earlier in the previous video was to write down every day what are the things that I want to do tomorrow. And by doing it this way, yes. I'm good. By doing it this way, at the very least, I'll be able to get some feedback because there's an actual plan of what needs to be done the next day and what didn't get done. And I feel it's about time I give up the whole, I start thinking past, beyond the whole, as long as I'm giving everything that I'm doing, because like really, like there are at least 10 things that I'm doing right now pertaining to the business. And they can all be done because that's where I kind of like think. But when it comes to writing the code, I don't really think. I negotiate with the language now, or I just the software. It's fun. It's really fun to kind of like consider how I'm thinking about code these days. But the goal is to kind of like move. And in order to do that, I actually have to plan better. And the best way to figure out how to plan is to start writing down day by day what are the things that you want to do and the tasks. And I'm guessing life already made the decision. And this is me thinking of my choices, or the choice I made to actually attempt this. I'm kind of figuring out why and getting better at succeeding in this choice. It's a video, not bad.